Yeah, I guess it did. I started out teaching myself to record in my bedroom, and every time I got a new synth or microphone or pedal, the best way for me to learn is just to use it. So I would write or record a piece of music, and along the way, I'd learn how to use this new piece of gear. And in the process of that, I guess creative recording techniques sort of became part of my composition process. So in that way, I guess like DIY has sort of become a little bit sort of embedded in what I do. I actually love working on a couple of projects at the same time. As long as there's like a clear brief and my dialogue with the director or producer is really clear, then it's never a problem. Um, I also find that if I'm sort of working on stuff on multiple projects in the same day, it kind of keeps my mind open and not like super zeroed in on one type of genre or one type of job. And I find that I sometimes can come up with more interesting stuff that way. Yeah, I guess like my music taste is always evolving. So plum and kale definitely feel like a certain time in my life. I'm currently working on an album that I'm hoping to have out by the end of the year. That sort of reflects where I'm at the moment, composition wise. It's got a lot of electronic elements and live instrumentation and found sound. And yeah, it really just focuses on storytelling through instrumental music. So yeah, keep an eye out. People are consuming so much short form media these days, so we're in a really interesting time for that. Um, there's series coming out on Instagram and TikTok and all that sort of stuff, and people are just used to being really entertained immediately. So while that's a really interesting thing to work with composition wise, they expect a certain level of intensity when they watch these kind of short form pieces. You've got to grab their attention really quickly. It's often going to be sort of pretty brash, and just if you can imagine people scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, it's got to grab their attention immediately. So obviously there's that element to it. But the other thing is that at the end of the day, like, we're storytellers, it's what we do. So the kind of bells and whistles can't come at the expense of the story. And that's something I just try and keep in mind no matter what I'm writing for. If I'm writing for short form or long form or anything, it's like, what is the story trying to say and how can I support that? I guess my love for collaboration is definitely comes from playing in bands. Playing live and being in the studio. Initially as a guitarist, and then as a music producer later on. And when a band or an artist comes to you and they've sort of got their song and they need help kind of fleshing out what it's actually going to sound like on record, there's actually a lot of similarities with that than there are with working with the director. Both are coming to you with like a fresh idea, and you're helping them articulate their creative vision. And I think that's what I love so much about it. That's why I'm writing music for film and TV, because I love to collaborate. And I think that actually working with songwriters and directors are really sort of similar in that sense. Oh, that's an interesting question. I guess probably time will tell. Yeah, what about it sounds like me? A lot of pulsing synths, rhythmic electronic elements, a lot of sparse, sort of slow burning melody. That's the stuff that I love to write. I've got a couple here actually. My first is to try and write every day. Obviously, that's an unrealistic expectation. I by no means manage to write every day, but I often just reflect on the fact that I love music, I love film, That is what got me to where I am. And when you're kind of working on jobs and there's deadlines and budgets and all that sort of stuff, you can often lose sight of that. So I often just try and remind myself every day that wow, what an amazing job I have. I get to come to the studio every day and write music. So yeah, that's the first one. The second one would be to get comfortable networking. I'm a little bit of an introvert, so it kind of took me a couple of years to sort of get comfortable networking. But since I sort of found my way of doing it in an authentic way, I've actually met so many wonderful people. Some of them I've worked with and have become collaborators, and some of them have just become wonderful friends. So I think that's really important. And thirdly is get a dog. My first couple of years freelancing, when they were really quiet, would have been so much harder if I didn't have my amazing dog, Juno. And there's obviously a lot to like about writing music for games. There's such a culture of rich storytelling in games that's really appealing to me as someone who loves writing for story. But that being said, film and TV, my first love, my true love. I'm still as obsessed with film and TV today as I was all those years ago, and that is absolutely where my love and energy goes. I'm always really grateful to get any kind of recognition, be they nominations, awards, or just someone telling me that they like something that I wrote music for. It always feels really good, and it's obviously yeah, it's encouraging and yeah, especially it's a really isolating career, the career of of a composer. So it's great to sort of just know that you're part of a community and that people are sort of acknowledging that your work exists in some way. That being said, awards are all well and good, but I'm always just trying to remind myself that at the end of the day, what am I trying to say artistically? Who am I as a composer? What kind of music am I trying to put out into the world? That is much more important to me than any sort of award or recognition. Ooh, that's a tough question. I guess Arthur Russell sort of comes to mind for sure. Not only as a musician, music producer, singer, just the way that he lived such a beautiful and artistic life. You hear a lot of stories about Arthur Russell, about how he was always writing music, but he didn't actually release that much of it whilst he was alive. You hear how he had hundreds of mixes for the same song, and sure, there's a little bit of perfectionism there, but I guess like he just loved the process and he lived for the process, and that's something I try and think about a lot. The other one who sort of falls into the same category is Ryuichi Sakamoto. Obviously, just like a god level composer and artist. But I guess the thing that I love about Ryuichi is that he was writing music in so many different genres, be it like electronic or dance or piano or orchestral. Obviously, he's got this rich catalog with Yellow Magic Orchestra as well. He had such a strong singular artistic voice, and that just came through whatever he was doing. And I guess that's like what we're all hoping to achieve, right? As composers, we're moving through so many different genres, and briefs can change on a dime. So what I'm always at least trying to achieve is that my creative voice is always coming through. Other than those guys, I mean, I love like Arthur Verocai. I'm always listening to Arthur Verocai, and a lot of great filmmakers as well. Corey Ada is one that comes to mind. Who I love what he does. Ruben Osland. I saw him talk a couple of months ago in Italy. That was really fascinating. So yeah, I try to just draw a lot of inspiration from many different creatives. I love my modular synth rig. I just find it such an inspiring jumping off point for scores. Be that sort of like making crazy pads or kind of like sound design stuff. I just find it really childlike in a beautiful way to sort of just yeah, to kind of come up with unusual things that I'll probably never be able to produce again. I mean, secondly, is probably my Sub 37, my Moog Sub 37. I use that for a lot of sequencing stuff and drones and sound design. And then I guess probably just a humble old casino, which I just love so much. And I'm a guitarist first and foremost, so I'm often just like trying to play more guitar because the majority of the music we write these days is in computers. So yeah, I love my casino.